Thank you very much. We want to quickly move on to our next section, which happens to be our opening keynote. And to help us with our opening keynote is a very good friend of mine who happens to be our Vice President and Chief Information Officer from the Catholic Relief Service. Ladies and gentlemen, help me bring on stage Karl Lowe to give us our opening keynote. Let's show him some love. Let's show it till he gets onto the stage.
I saw John was challenged with this little section here as well. So anyway, thank you, John, so much for that kickoff. Really appreciate it. So good morning and welcome to ICT4D 2026. It's particularly a joy for me to open this conference in Nairobi. CRS founded the ICT4D conference more than 15 years ago because we believed in this community, the practitioners, technologists, donors, governments, and organizations closest to the people we serve. We needed a place to meet, to argue, to learn, and to participate together in this community. It's been 10 years since we last gathered in Nairobi, and returning to this city on this continent at this moment in the sector feels exactly right. And it feels particularly right for me because 10 years ago was my first ICT4D conference. How many were at Safari Park? Yeah, quite a few. So I also want to acknowledge our partners at Tech Change. We heard that they're producing this conference this year. It's a new collaboration for us. Frankly, we've done this on our own in the past, and we're really grateful for Tech Change and the depth of experience that they bring to this community. Their learning and all of that matches our own, and we're thankful for the Tech Change team. Much of what you'll experience this week is the result of their work behind the scenes. So you also, I think there might be a slide of our partners and sponsors. Do collaborate with them, do work with them, do thank them for what they do. We couldn't do this conference without them. And to all of you, thank you for being here. I know what it took for many of you to get into this room. Travel budgets are thinner than they were a year ago. Programs you helped to build have been paused, restructured, or shut down. Colleagues that you came to past conferences with aren't here, and we feel that. The fact that this community still showed up, still wants to learn together, still believes that technology in service of human dignity is worth fighting for, that's not a small thing. That's the story of this conference. So let's be honest at where we are right now. The development and humanitarian sector is in the most disruptive period any of us have worked through. Global funding has contracted sharply. Donor priorities are being rewritten in real time. Localization is no longer a slogan, it's an operational necessity. Because the international architecture that we relied on for the past 30 years simply isn't there anymore. At the same time, the populations we serve are facing compound crises, protracted conflict in places like Gaza, Sudan, Eastern DRC, climate shocks accelerating across Sahel, the Horn, South Asia, Central America, food systems under stress, and displacement at record levels. And into the middle of this, as John mentioned, arrives the most consequential technology shift of our careers, generative AI. Moving faster than our policies, our procurement processes, our safeguarding frameworks, and frankly, our imaginations. That is the environment that we're working in right now. And this is the environment that this agenda was built to confront. The first theme of the conference, you heard a little bit about this before, Shaping Tomorrow, Building Equitable and Sustaining Digital Futures. It asks us to look at how funding shifts, the expansion of digital public infrastructure, and youth leadership are redefining what localization actually means. You'll see this thread running through the agenda all week. There are 9 sessions on digital public infrastructure alone, looking honestly at what works, where DPI excludes, and what risks we still haven't confronted. There are sessions on community-led innovation, on data localization, on power dynamics and data, and what it means to design safely when the user is a 17-year-old girl whose phone is being monitored by a family member. The arguments running through these sections is one that I think the whole sector has to absorb. The era in which we design digital tools for communities and push them out is now ending. Rather, the era that we are now in requires us to design with communities and to share authorship, to share governance, and in many cases, get out of the way. The localization conversation and digital design conversations are one and the same now. The second theme, delivering on the SDGs in a fragile world, is one that I want to dwell on because it sits at the center of what most of our organizations in this room, ours included, are wrestling with. We're not going to meet the SDGs with the trajectory that we're on right now. Everyone in the room knows that. The question this conference puts in front of us is harder and frankly more useful. Given how the world actually is, how do we still deliver? So you'll hear answers from across this community all week. Geospatial work, strengthening climate resilience, and settlement-based programming in Pakistan. GIS workflows being turned into real disaster response in Asia. QR-based reconciliation, embedding accountability into health campaigns. Reimagined feedback and complaint systems, built for a sector that has to re-earn trust. CRS colleagues are part of several of those sessions, and I'd encourage you to reach out to them. But the more important point is that this is a collective work. No single organization solves any of this alone, and that's precisely why we gather. I want to spend a moment, as John mentioned, of the element in the room and really at this conference, and that's AI. There's 22 sessions alone on AI, more than any other topic by a wide margin. That tells you where the sector, and frankly, where the world's attention is right now. It should also tell us to be very, very careful. The honest framing of this agenda is what I want to commend to you. Look at the session titles. The implementation reality gap. What makes AI adopted, adapted, or abandoned? From analytical ambition to operational decisions. Field notes from Gaza, Guatemala, Ethiopia, and Greece. This is not an agenda hyping AI. This is an agenda interrogating it, asking what works, what fails, and what we owe the people on the receiving end of these systems. CRS has a couple of sessions in this conversation, and the framing that we chose is very deliberate. Field notes rather than case studies, lessons learned and not success stories. Because if there is one thing this community needs from each other in this moment, it's honesty about what responsible deployment actually look like. Once a model leaves the lab and meets a country office, a partner, or a beneficiary. If you take one thing away from the AI track this week, it's this. Responsible deployment is harder than responsible design. And we owe each other honesty about both. Let me close where I started. The sector where we work is being reshaped underneath our feet. Some of what we built will not survive. Frankly, some of it shouldn't survive. But the mission, using technology to advance human dignity, particularly for people the global system has failed. That mission has never been more necessary, and this community has never been more capable of carrying it. So what I'm asking for all of you this week are three things. First, be honest in the rooms. Share what didn't work. The polished case study is less useful to the person sitting next to you than the candid one. Second, find your collaborators. Funding constraints are pushing every organization towards the same realization. We cannot build everything alone, and we should not be building the same things 6 times in parallel. And finally, the partnerships formed in the hallways at this conference will frankly outlast the sessions. And third, keep the people that we serve at the center. Every tool, every model, every dashboard, every chatbot that we discuss this week is only worth the time we spend on it if it makes life measurably better for someone whose name we will never know. Finally, I want to call out 2 people in the room. Without them, this conference wouldn't have happened. So Nora and Ziad, if you wouldn't mind standing. There's Ziad way over there. Literally, starting after the Ghana conference 2 years ago. Do you remember Ghana 2 years ago when we had no internet? Literally, starting after the Ghana conference, these 2 have been working hard to make this conference as good as it can be and as good as it will be. So thank you very much, Nora and Ziad. So thank you, Nairobi, for hosting us once again. I love the coffee, by the way. I got in late last night, and I had 1 cup of coffee, and I'm ready to go. So even if you drink tea, try some coffee. And thank you all for the work that you do in places that don't make headlines. And thank you, and have a great conference.